All right, welcome to another day and another end of day breakdown, more or less, guys. I hope you all had a good day today. Without further ado, let's begin to break down what data has been printed, what opportunities presented themselves since the last video yesterday. So you can see that yesterday's candle closure. So just to kind of give you some context as to what we were looking for in this kind of area very quickly, we had this dealing range, right, with the 50% being around here. You have your, I think it was a bit higher, that 50%, right, around here. What's going on? Around here, this bullish imbalance becomes your discounted array. You see that price taps into it. We attempt to go higher, but we don't get any follow through, right? Price doesn't push higher, rather we induce this bullish array over here. Yesterday we closed below that, and that shifts our draw on liquidity, right? Our temporary draw on liquidity to this sell side liquidity right here, right? So the fact that we didn't get any reaction or follow through from this array right here, right, tells us that we need to most likely move lower, transact at lower prices to find new buyers to potentially push price higher. I hope that makes sense. So coming into this morning, right, so if we bring this here, after yesterday's close, we were looking for price to somewhat give us a pullback and then form that classic sell day into this sell side liquidity over here. So that's the context of the day. That's what we were looking for, right? And then depending on today's close in 15 minutes, we will see if price closes above this, right? Then we have some potential to start pushing higher and potentially taking this out. And maybe all we needed to do was grab liquidity one more time before pushing higher, or we may close below tomorrow, maybe even sometime early next week. But any kind of closures below this low begins to trigger us into further downside territory. But that was the setup for today, right? That's what we're looking for going into London session this morning. So if we bring this back to here, now let's just quickly go into our 1 hour. So after price, slammed down yesterday and induced the bullish imbalance on our daily, we basically have this low getting induced on the H1, and we leave behind this bearish imbalance here. So if we're looking at arrays that can potentially provide lower prices today, right, you see that H4, this lands over a nice H4 imbalance right here. We have this one up here, but if you look at your daily time frame, if this is your sell side liquidity over here, it's very unlikely that if we have all this newfound momentum that we're going to retrace up here, right? So this imbalance up here becomes kind of, unnecessary. It's unlikely that we're going to retrace all the way back up here before dropping. And if we do retrace all the way up here, we're most likely going to start seeing some follow through. So your scenarios here are either we're going to see price tap into this and drop, right, or we have this higher time frame, this higher imbalance on the 4 hour, which lines up with this bearish order block right here. So ideally, when we came to the charts this morning, I wanted to see price dump from here, just because of how close we are to this sell side liquidity, and due to the amount of momentum and intent that kicked in from this move here. Also notice the time which these lows were put in place, right? These are late PM, not so much late, but after 3 PM, we're putting in these lows and they didn't do anything, right? So we're anticipating these to get taken out at some point, right? When this is not giving us a, expansive move higher. So these weak lows are lows we want to target. And then it just becomes a matter of where we want to go short from. So it was either this one from here or from here, right? So just giving you some context on that H1. Now going into the M15, looking at how the day develops. So ideally what we wanted to see, right, you want to see that classic sell day where we take out Asia high, give some form of shift, right, start shorting into Asia low. And because this is counter stage and we're going against our higher time frame draw on liquidity, you mainly want to just target Asia low, right? You don't want to be targeting external targets, and therefore you need to make sure that you're getting a nice risk to reward in order to get involved in this, right? You don't want to be getting involved in this for a 1 to 1.2, right? So reading the order flow that begins to develop on this day, right? You get price pushing out, protracting potentially into this H1 imbalance, and we leave behind M15 imbalances, right? So let's just fade that out a bit, right? And I want you to watch this. So if I drag this over, this is our H1 imbalance, this is M15, this is H1, right? So if we play this out, you see M15 taps into the M15 imbalance, we respect it, we leave new M15 bullish imbalances or imbalance, bang, right? Play it forward a bit. All right, notice H1 taps distal line, holds it, taps distal line, holds it, taps distal line, and so far holds it, right? And then, okay, well, that gives it away. So now at this point, what you're looking for is some form of shift, right? This is your shift. This is where the most recent low that made the most recent high, right? And then what you could have played here was some form of something like this, right? But then you realize you're greeted with a 1 to 1.2 RR trade, which is just not what we want to trade. So you have to wait for some kind of array or some kind of pullback to at least get you in for a better RR, right? So I was waiting for price to develop something along those lines. You see we leave behind this bearish imbalance, right? We fully induced all this bullish intent on the M15. You see we have no H1 arrays in the way of this move. So ideally I wanted to see something like this, boom. Come on. Right, and then slam lower. But unfortunately, we don't get that, right? Boom. You see that price just slams down and we don't get that opportunity to get involved. In hindsight, I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't play this, but hey, it's okay. It wasn't the most textbook play. I would have had to go M5 to try and catch something in this move, and I didn't really want to go to M5 to start catching plays here. But you can see that we end up delivering all the way down to this sell side liquidity, that main target we had our eyes on. And now this is where I got neuron activations again, and I was on the charts looking for an entry, right? Because we are bullish overall until this level gets induced. Just to kind of clarify what I mean there is that at this point in time, this bullish order block, sorry, this bullish imbalance is still holding, right? And we've just taken out liquidity. So this is still very much able to just go bang like that and start taking out this high and this high, right? That's in line with our higher time frame outlook. So when we took out that sell side liquidity, if I go here, we take that out, right? We push lower, and you see we end up leaving behind a bullish imbalance. And then all I wanted to see was price close below, close above this high, the most recent high that made this low, and give us a market shift, right? Confirm some bullish intent. So we get bullish imbalance here, right? I wanted to see price come into the midpoint. I could wrap my stop below this low and then begin to target. Well, my overall target would be this, right? And then I would partial out along the way, take some out here, right? Majority of the position out here, and then start to take some out as it comes higher, if it goes higher, right? So boom. Mainly this becomes like my main target, right? I wanted to take, if this was going to happen earlier in the day, I would have taken 25% off here, pro stage, right? 25% off here, and then maybe a good 50% off here, somewhere in there, because I don't really want to target all of this. But anyway, just to kind of show you what happens, we end up missing that, right? So I probably would have entered here anyway, if price tapped into it, but it doesn't. So, and we got more confirmation, right? We body close above this here. You see it then tags me in. I get tagged in, and then this is where we are at now. Right, boom. So we're currently above here, right? And I've closed 50% out over here, right? It's not amazing, but I feel like there is some potential for price to start trading up to here tomorrow, and it'll be a nice way to wrap the Friday. I've got the rest of my position at break even, so it's fine. Everything is covered. Worst case scenario, I get stopped out break even. I'm still up around 0.5%. And just to show you on my MT5, don't know if you can see that. All right, buys. Let me just go to a. So that's what we're working with there on a Alpha Capital challenge, and then that's the play. So that low, this low here, right? This low here is where my finger is. Right there, that's where I got in, right? And you can see that we're up here now. It's flipped the other way, but that's my entry, bang, there. So yeah, let's see how this goes. This was a good little end of day kind of thing, right? And the last thing I want to say is that the reason why I was happy to get involved in this is because we get that impulsive leg to the downside in London. Right, if I just shift this over to UK time again, which I usually do use, but I'm trying to get used to the New York time, right? Basically, we do the whole leg in London, and then when New York comes in, we don't really give a healthy retracement or pullback to even drop lower, right? So we didn't pull back at any point to grab new liquidity to then move lower. So I thought, you know what, even if we don't come all the way up here, we can anticipate some kind of pullback, at least into this imbalance, right, to rebalance this move, especially because we've got, you know, these imbalances open on this hourly time frame. All right, so let's see how this goes. On the daily, you can see that we're most likely going to get a closure above this. Right, so if we can, you see, this is like kind of that liquidity grab scenario. So if this follows through tomorrow, at least to here, then potentially we can get a nice little TP to end the week. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I hope you found that informative, and I'll see you tomorrow.